Greetings friends and welcome to the weekly tactics video. Today I've got a pretty interesting video. We have a tournament that came out of Richmond since the new points dropped, and in the top 10 there was two Blood Angels player. One was running Ironstorm, one was running Sons of Sanguinius, and they actually played each other. So we've got both lists, we've got their routes to their top 10 finishes, and then I've got a bit of breakdown on both of them. So stick around and let's jump in. Alright, so two impressive Blood Angels lists. We're talking about the Richmond Open 40k, and this just happened, just after the points drop. So, Stephen's list, it was an Iron Inquisitor list, and this, basically Stephen won 5 games in a row, lost the final, he finished 4th, he would have finished 2nd, but unfortunately the 3rd and 4th player drew, so he finished 4th, and this is an Ironstorm Blood Angels list. This is what he did. He beat Ultramarines, Astrometallum, Thousand Suns. This was an interesting game where he beat the other Blood Angels player. The other Blood Angels player was playing Sons of Sanguinius, so we're going to cover that a little bit later on. He beat the Tau, and he lost the final to Necrons. Necrons have a crazy win rate at the moment. I really thought they would get hit maybe a little bit harder in the data slate, but I guess we'll see. So, let's jump into this Ironstorm list. And this is an interesting list, right? Like when I looked at this list, he's like flooded it. And what I mean by flooded it is like there's no Land Raiders in there. There's no repulsors in there. There's lots and lots of cheap tanks. So I guess if we add it up, there's 2 Ball Predators, there's 2 Ballista Dreadnoughts, there's 2 Lancers, there's 2 Predators, there's 3 Vindicators. So basically, what's that? 4, 8, 12. So he's got 15 tanks in this list, 2 Tech Marines, 3 Scout Squads, and that tricksy Lone Operative Lieutenant giving rerolls on an objective. So the only other thing in the list, I suppose, is the Assault Intercessors with jump packs. So this list doesn't really play much into a typical Blood Angels list. The only thing we've got there are those Ball Predators. They're the only like Blood Angel specific units. But Vindicators did go down. They are very good. I think at 175 points if you've got 3 of them. I think you can run 3 of them in Sons of Sanguinius, but I think a couple is probably pretty good. The Predator Destructor, I was playing that a lot in my list. I think it's very good against elite infantry because it gets 6 shots at AP2, flat 3 damage against elite infantry. We know the Lancers are very good at killing enemy vehicles. We know the Brutalises are sort of multi-purpose because they can kill vehicles, or they've got those strength 5 frag grenades, or frag missiles, sorry. The Ball Predators can advance and shoot against infantry. It's worth noting that 7 of these vehicles, the Destructors, the Vindicator, and the Ball Predators, have Hunter-Killer missiles. So I guess on turn 1, that literally means you can fire off 7 strength 14 Hunter-Killer missiles that hit on 2s. Remember, the advantage of the Iron Spear detachment is you can reroll a hit and a wound. So that adds some crazy reliability to those Hunter-Killer missiles if you want to. We've got the 2 Tech Marines healing these vehicles and using the 2 enhancements for Ironstorm. I'm going to cover them in a second. But I guess the main play of this list, when you look at it, is lots of tanks to benefit from the Ironstorm detachment rule. And the Ironstorm detachment rule is once per phase for each unit, you can reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, or 1 damage roll made for a model in that unit. So, when you've got 15 tanks, and you already have Oath of the Moment, and you already have a Tech Marine to make some of them +1 to hit, the Ironstorm detachment rule on top adds a bunch of reliability, especially on things like Gladiators, because Gladiators already get reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, 1 damage, I believe. So maybe it's not damage for Lancers, but yeah, it's definitely hit and wound for Lancers. I don't play Lancers all that much. But you combo that with Ironstorm and you're basically able to reroll 2 hits or 2 wounds. So the 2 shots from that strength 14 cannon get a ton of reliability into them. The Vindicator tanks put out a lot of shots. Each one averages 6.5 shots. So in turn 1, when you've got a Hunter-Killer missile, you basically have 7.5 shots per Vindicator at strength 14 -3. So what's the thoughts on this list? Then it's a little bit weak against Haywire. It goes pretty hard on that plan of feeling just tons of low-cost armor. Most of the characters are there to buff the armor. I mean, the Lieutenant with the combi weapon will buff the armor and it'll be able to reroll 1s for wounding on specific objectives. And I guess that makes all 3 of your characters low-op potentially as well. with 3 units of scouts. That's actually quite a lot of scoring. Potentially like 4 scoring units there. There is interesting things you can do with the Tech Marines as well, because the Tech Marines are lone op if they're within 3 of the vehicles. So sometimes you can pop the Tech Marine out on an objective and be a lone operative because there's a vehicle sitting in cover on the objective. There's some shenanigans you can do around there with the Tech Marines. And obviously repairing and giving +1 to hit is very good as well. When you've got 15 vehicles, I think you're going to get some good value out of that. So the enhancements obviously are Adept of the Omnissiah. So a Tech Marine, once per battle round, when a saving throw is made, within 6, you can change the damage characteristic of that attack to 0, right? So basically, one time when you fail that critical saving throw and the opponent rolls 6 damage, you just say, no, that's 0 damage. Very, very strong. And then Master of the Machine War basically means, like, any vehicles within 6 inches of that Tech Marine can advance and shoot or fall back and shoot. And here's the interesting thing about that, right? Is a Tech Marine moves 6 and he has a Forge Bolter, which means he can advance and still shoot a little bit, I guess. So if you imagine that most of the time the Tech Marine could probably move somewhere between 6 and 9 inches, then hit his 6-inch aura. So realistically, even with a roll of 1, 13 inches from the Tech Marine, you'd be able to fall back and shoot. So any of these vehicles, all of which have about a 10-inch move. I think the slowest one is the Ballistus Dreadnought with an 8-inch move. So even if you were 21 inches away from your Tech Marine with your Ballistus Dreadnought, you will still be able to fall back and shoot for free because of Master of the War Machine. So used right, I think Master of the War Machine is very good. Why did I say War Machine? War Machine is the Black Sabbath song, isn't it? Master of the Machine War. Okay. Right. Is it War Machine? I don't know. It's been a while since, like, I feel like it would. Let's move on. Brain is failing me. I'm getting old. Anyway, so this is the rules and how the list was set up. And this won 5 games in a row and only lost to Necron. So this list did really, really well. I have run Vindicators, Ball Predators, Ballistuses, Destructors, and Lancers. And obviously I run Scouts all the time. These are all very competitive units. I like all of them. I just have never run Ironstorm myself, so I'm not fully qualified to talk on the list, but I think it is very good. I'm more qualified to talk about Sons of Sanguinius, which we will be getting to. So what are my thoughts if we have to rate this list out of 50? On objective holding, there's no real obsec in the list. But there is a ton of armor, and there's 3 units of scouts, and the Tech Marines have the lone op, and the Lieutenant has the lone op, and the vehicles all have IOC, so I think objective holding is pretty decent. Something like 8.5 out of 10. Anti-infantry horde. Well, we've got 3 flamer tanks. We've got 2 frags on the Ballistus Dreadnoughts. That's 2d6 shots. You've got 3 Vindicator tanks, which can kill hordes if needed. All this stuff could tank shock into hordes as well. You've got 2 Predator Destructors. I think it's not amazing at killing hordes, but you could easily kill like 40 or 50 guys a turn. There's probably 8.5 out of 10 for killing hordes. Anti-vehicle is where this list is a little bit scary, or big monsters, right? Because you've got 8 las cannons, you've got 8 autocannon shots, more if you're in rapid fire range. You've got 3 demolisher cannons, which should average about 20 shots per turn between the 3 of them. Turn 1, you've got those 7 hunter killer missiles I talked about. You've got 2 heavy laser destroyers. That's 4 shots, and every single shot has a potential reroll baked in because of the Ironstorm. So there's a lot of strength 14 firepower, right? Realistically, that's about 25 strength 14 shots in turn 1. And with Ironstorm rerolls, like, I just wrote damn here because, yeah, that's a lot of strength 14. We don't see many lists that have that much strength 14. It's also very mobile, this list, right? It's fairly fast. The vehicles all have good movement. The Ball Predators have advance and fire against infantry. And the Scouts can also bounce around too. So his mobility on this list is actually very good. Specialization is very focused on vehicles. And there's not much that screams Blood Angels here. The Ball Predators are good enough to justify it, I feel like. The Flamestorm cannons in Overwatch can kill quite a few infantry, can shut down infantry movement if you've got the heavy flamers on there, which he did. So overall, I think this is like a 42 out of 50 list. I've yet to try Ironstorm, but this uses the 2 auto-take auras, leans really hard into lots of vehicles, lots of low-costed vehicles to get the most out of the detachment. And the power it kicks out sort of justifies that. He, like, swept over 5 games. The minimum score was an 85, and multiple 90s, 390s, and then losing out to Necrons in essentially what would have been the final. So 42 out of 50 for, was it Stephen? Yeah. So that is a good Ironstorm list. I guess if you're looking for a Blood Angels Ironstorm list, maybe this would be a good jumping off point. I like it. And right before we get to the Sons of Sanguinius list, let me tell you that I need you guys to do the YouTube algorithm stuff. Please, if you haven't already done it, like this video. If you're getting some value out of it, subscribe if you want to see more Blood Angels content every week. That's literally what the channel's all about. I bring stuff out every single week. And apparently, only 10.1% of you have actually clicked on the bell to get notifications. The bell is hiding behind my head. So when I go live or when I put out a new video, only 10% of you get notified. Apparently 10 to 30% of people on YouTube accept that. So if you are one of these 20% that was on the fence, what's the worst going to happen? You don't have to tune in when I go live. You don't have to watch my videos a second. But come on, guys. A few more people click the bell. I would appreciate it. Okay, let's talk about the Sons of Sanguinius list, which won 5 games. Same. He's actually in 12. He was actually only 10 battle points behind the other guy, Stephen. And when I was starting to investigate this list, I thought it was very funny that he lost to Blood Angels. Be interesting to be a fly on the wall against that. So he beat Necrons twice. He beat Drukhari. The other list might have struggled against Drukhari because of the amount of haywire and stuff they get. He lost by 11 points to that tank-heavy Blood Angels list, and I think there's a clear and obvious reason for that, and we're going to get into it. He beat Grey Knights. He beat Thousand Sons. Thousand Sons are getting stronger, I feel like. But Blood Angels might actually be a good army to play against them because Mephiston gives his unit a feel no pain against psychic attacks. The Librarian in Terminate Armor can give his unit a feel no pain against psychic attacks, and so can our Librarian Dreadnought give an aura of feel no pain against psychic attacks. So Thousand Sons might be the bogeyman in the meta. They might not be too bad for Blood Angels. Okay, let's talk about the Sons of Sanguinius list. And we have seen similar things doing well right before the data slate, and so this is what we're seeing now. Or this was 5-1, and 5-1 is very difficult to get, right? If you've never gone, like, the best I typically do at tournaments is 4-1. I always end up losing in the final. It's almost going to be a running meme at this point about John losing another final. But I think getting 5 wins in these GTs is very difficult because game 5, you are tired. And Blood Angels are an army that are actually quite high skill. If you ever position a unit, especially a list like this, if you ever position a unit badly, they're only toughness 4 Marines with no invuln. They die hella fast. So let's talk about what this list is. It's the captain, and he will be in an impulsor with 5 regular assault intercessors. You've got Chief Mephiston in another impulsor with 5 assault intercessors. You've got a captain with jump pack. He could likely be with either the Vanguard Veterans or the Assault Intercessors with jump backs. You've got Dante, who is most likely with the Sanguinary Guard, just a 5-man. Nice to see them back on the table, at least a little bit. We've got a Sanguinary Priest with jump pack, and then another Sanguinary Priest with jump pack. One will obviously be with the 10 Assault Intercessors, one will be with the 10 Vanguard Veterans, giving them the Feel No Pain and giving them an additional point of AP. And then we've got the Sanguiner on the, I guess, in reserve, ready to come in heroic intervention to potentially mess up some sort of enemy charge. I guess this list where he was playing against the Blood Angels, that Blood Angels list with all those Strength 14 tanks, he's not going to be doing too many charges, so the Sanguiner was probably a little bit less desirable. But what have we got, right? We've got the 2 Battle Line Assault Intercessors that are both inside the Impulsors. Cool. Impulsors aren't great against that much Strength 14 firepower, not going to lie. You're going to have to hide them really, really well. You've got 5 Assault Intercessors with jump packs, another 5, a 10, the 5 Sanguinary Guard, the 2 5-man squads of Scouts, and the 10 Vanguard Veteran squads with jump packs. So I think the thing to say about this list is it's spending a lot of points on characters. You're basically, I didn't actually do this math, but with a quick edit there, it tells me we spent 735 points on characters. That is insanity, I feel like. Now, it does buff a lot of these units, and there is value in that. But I do wonder maybe if he just had 1 or 2 less characters and had like another 10 Assault Intercessors with jump packs, maybe make both this 5s into 2 more 10s, because obviously you can only have 3 squads and there'd be 10 at a time. Would that have been better? Potentially. The captains do add a bit of value to the Assault Intercessor squads. Mephiston adds a bit of value as well. Them coming out of the transports can do a lot of damage. I think the main thing that I would highlight in this list would be It does do a lot of chopping in terms of killing the enemies, but has a real distinct lack of strength 10 attacks, right? Like, maybe I haven't put the war gear of these captains. Sure, the captains might have a power fist, and there's like one power fist in each of these squads, and there's a power fist in the Sangre Guard. But realistically, like this list has maybe 6 power fists in it, right? Maybe 7, I'm maybe missing one. But my point is, maybe I guess with these guys, 8 power fists or something. If there'd been a 10-man squad of Death Company in here or something from before the balanced data slate when they went up in points, we would have instantly had 10 power fists in just the Death Company. And I think when you're coming into that amount of armor that we were coming up against, and all the armor is either T10 or T11, so it would be 5s to wound a lot of the time for these Marines into that other Blood Angels list. So Red Rampage is going to help a lot, giving lethals and +1, but sometimes when you only wound on 4s, it can still be pretty tough, and I guess some of your AP here is also not great, so Armor of Contempt would have helped the other Blood Angels list a lot. There is something to be said about Blood Angels really lack a stratagem, or lack a way to get AP3 in their melee, right? Like, all of our melee is AP2. If the opponent was smart and every time, I suppose, let's just say the 10 Assault Intercessors managed to charge a Vindicator tank, if he just instantly plays Armor of Contempt, then very quickly he's saving on 2s and 3s and you're only wounding on 4s. So even though you've got a ton of attacks, let's say all 50 attacks hit, and then statistically half of them wound, 25 wounds. If you're saving on 3s, there's only going to be a handful that get through that. It would only be a third of the 25. So like a tank with an Armor of Contempt play on it could probably actually tank up one of these big units of Assault Intercessors, the big unit of Vanguard Veterans. Then you can potentially heal them and move on and kill a bunch of them on the return fire. So this list felt like it needed some more strength 10 attacks, and I think it felt to me like it had a few too many characters. But I mean, still going 5-1 is really, really impressive. I think I would struggle to go 5-1 with this list. I feel like I maybe rely heavily on strength 10 power fist attacks, and maybe that's why I've got some Terminators, and I was looking at my list as well, and I'm actually running 2 Vindicator tanks in my Sons of Sanguinius list, so maybe like losing a couple of these characters and adding a couple of Vindicator tanks. So I have a bunch of strength 14 and a bunch of strength 10 attacks in my list, in my Sons of Sanguinius list, and I feel like that maybe makes it a tiny bit stronger, but playing this list at 5-1 is really impressive. So obviously we know that on the charge, Blood Angels get +2 strength, but Chainswords are only strength 6. So strength 6 into all that toughness 10 stuff would struggle. This list does maximize, or it tries to maximize the most out of the Blood Angels indexed detachment, and that is good. I mean, if you're going to run a Sons of Sanguinius detachment, you should be trying to maximize that. You've got multiple ways of getting Red Rampage on multiple units, because those captains let you activate it on a unit for free, and then you can activate it elsewhere in the battlefield. So you can get Rampage, basically Red Rampage, in 2 places on the battlefield on the same turn, and you can almost do that every turn. And that's probably one of the reasons, or one of the things, because Red Rampage gives you both lance and lethal hits. So one of the things that makes all those chainsword attacks so deadly, because a bunch of them become lethal, and then you can wound with +1 to wound. And again, it just comes back to some of the AP not being all that great. So this list tries to overrun your opponent with a ton of bodies, a ton of strength 10 attacks, but it is vulnerable, and I guess it is vulnerable to 3 Vindicator tanks like that. That's going to kill a lot of guys every single turn. And it lacks, I've said slacks, strength 10 attacks. It lacks strength 10 attacks. And also maybe lacks a little bit of dedicated scoring units. Having all those characters, I mean, unless you score unit points with like the Sanguinor, it feels like 2 scout squads isn't that much in terms of dedicated scoring units. They will score some points, but scouts also get killed very, very quickly. I made a video a few weeks back on how to get the most out of your scouts, but I still managed to lose like 1 or 2 units of scouts very early in the game, in every frigging game. It is hard to get those scouts in the right position and have them scoring and keep them alive. That's definitely a thing that's hard to do. And that's sometimes where a lone operative is very, very useful, right? Because like a lone operative just sometimes can't be shot. And that's why in the video I made a few weeks ago, I talked about how I really like the Khaled's assassin, think she's very strong. So let's talk about what this list does, right? It's got no infiltrators, so it maybe leaves the backfield a little bit open and exposed, and also there's nothing super durable that's going to sit in the backfield, and there's nothing that's going to sticky your backfield objective either. So I feel like if I'm playing Sons, I feel like one squad of infiltrators is worth taking, just to keep that backfield objective. That's not the strategy in this list. This list is going to try and run over the top of everything, but I like holding my home field objective. We've got tons of chainsword attacks, right? If we come up against a horde army, I worked out you've got like over 150 chainsword attacks per turn. So you should do tons of choppy. There's also mortal wound output on the charge. It's pretty decent. So anti-infantry, I think this one's probably better than the other list that we looked at. Anti-vehicle monster, we don't have a ton of stuff that's going to be great here to punch up. We've got Red Rampage, and we're going to have to use that really smartly because most of our attacks are strength 6, 7, or 8. We do have, I guess we had like 8 power fists, but it's usually only 1 in each unit. So you don't have like a dedicated anti-tank unit, so to speak, here. So because of that, I said vehicle monster effectiveness is a little bit less. It is pretty mobile, right? 35 jump marines, 2 impulsors. It should get where it needs to go. It has some nice anti-charge with Sanguinar. There's some good ways to deliver a ton of alpha strikes with the impulsors. It has some extra durability coming out from the Sanguinary Priest and also the potential extra AP. It would be really nice if we had a strat for AP. I've said that so many times. I think it's criminal Blood Angels only ever have AP2 now. Sad times. So I actually rated this list 5 points, or 0.5 worse than the other list. I think the other list is possibly better. But I prefer this list, right? Because I think I prefer playing melee units. I think this is a melee list. The first list was a shooting list. It's hard to deny that shooting cheap armor units are not effective this edition, though, because obviously the shooting list did beat this melee list, even though I wouldn't normally say Blood Angels have a ton of synergy into Ironstorm. I guess there's enough. This also definitely feels to me like it would have benefited from some more strength 10 power fists, be it Death Company or Terminators. I think both of those units are pretty good. I think if you're running Terminators, don't run the Assault Terminators, though. I think they're kind of rubbish. Just run the regular Terminators with like bolters and power fists. I think they are actually better and they're cheaper. It must have been a somewhat frustrating game being this melee list, though, running into that Blood Angels armor list, because you'd be getting killed by your own Ball Predators, or you'd be getting killed by Ball Predators, because they are very good at killing toughness 4 infantry, and you would have a really tough time punching up, because you would have to be using your Red Rampage on point, and if your opponent starts spiking saves, or if your opponent's using Armor of Contempt smartly and they're repairing with the Tet Marines, it could actually be very different. And Tet Marines are good in combat as well. Like, if you don't manage to wrap or kill that Tet Marine, I mean, a Tet Marine on the charge gets about 5 attacks at AP2, and they are 2 damage each as well. But how interesting would that game have been to watch? Blood Angels armor versus Blood Angels melee. I guess at the moment, as reluctant as it is for me to say, it seems like the armor have the ever so slight edge. I prefer playing melee. I think the melee can beat the armor. You maybe just need to make a few slight tweaks. But Luke obviously did really well here. I've never gone 5 at 1 in an event, so who am I to talk, right? 4 and 1, and then I always go 4 and 1, then capitulate at the top table and get absolutely annihilated. I've done that twice actually now. Maybe the third time's the charm for me in GTs. But anyway, well played to both the guys. Nice to see some Blood Angels lists with the new points doing pretty well. Hopefully you guys can learn something from this week. Remember, I'm here every week. You can like my videos if you do like them. If you don't like them, you don't have to like them. But I am here every week making Blood Angels content. Like, subscribe. You can follow me down on Patreon for the price of a cup of coffee every month, or you can click the join button and support me here on YouTube again for the price of a cup of coffee. I do really appreciate it. It helps me build out new content every week. So leave a comment, do the usual algorithm stuff. I will catch you in the next tactics video. Thank you so much for staying to the end and watching. I've been the Blood Angels Commander. You've been awesome. See you next time. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.